Hi, welcome to week 6 math. Grade 3, we're looking at chapter 2, lesson 4. The classwork is coming from the extra practice pages 23 and 24. You can work from the screen using a whiteboard today. And the homework is workbook pages 29 and 30. So you might want to print those out or take those out of your workbook. You might want a whiteboard and a marker. If you have printed pages, you might want a highlighter. Be sure you have a pencil and eraser if you have any printed pages for your homework. So at the end of this lesson, we will be able to estimate sums and differences. Let's remember that an estimate happens after we round. So I do the action of rounding and I come up with an estimate. Why is estimating important? Well, it's going to be on a test, and you've already seen it on a quiz. The most important thing is I want you to use it in your own life. And now I know you're asking the question, when should I make an estimate? Well, whenever the instructions say round, or if they say about, like about how many cookies did Sally bake, that's when you're going to make an estimate. That's when you're going to give an answer that's already been rounded. You can also make estimates before adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing bigger numbers. This is what I prefer. I prefer to estimate before I calculate big numbers. That way I have that like a target. That estimate is like a target that I'm trying to make sure that my exact calculations match. So what do estimates look like? Well, an estimate always ends in a zero. There must be at least one zero at the very end of the number, such as the ones place. There can be lots of zeros on the end of an estimate, depending on how far up you're rounding. Let's take a look at a couple of numbers here. If you look at 79 and you look at 80, which one is the estimate? The 80 is going to be an estimate because it ends with a zero in the tens place. The 79 is not an estimate because there's not a zero in the smallest place value. If I look at the numbers marked in green, 2,200 and 2,204, I know you've already decided which one is the estimate. If you haven't, pause the audio and then press play when you're ready to hear it. Okay, I'm pretty sure you said 2,200 is the estimate. And you'll notice that there's two zeros there, one in the ones place and one in the tens place. This number has been rounded to the nearest hundreds. This number has been rounded to the nearest tens. Let's look at the vocabulary. I use rounding to make estimates. So rounding is the action I take, and the estimate is the answer. I use addition to find sums. So adding is the action I take. The sum is the answer to an addition problem. I use subtraction to find differences. So when I subtract, my answer is called a difference. And I made this little graphic to help you remember about sums and differences. A sum is the answer when we add, and a difference is the answer when we subtract. I hope that little picture helps you out. All right, let's get started with our classwork. The instructions say, find the sum. Use rounding to check that each answer is reasonable. So step by step, we're going to use rounding and check the answer step by step. I would like to point out that you should be rounding to the nearest hundreds for this whole lesson and the homework as well. Take a look at the example here. It shows 225 plus 472. And when I add that together, I'll get 697. That's an exact calculation. I want to remind you that you can do your exact calculation first and your estimate second, or you can do the estimate first and do the rounding second. It doesn't really matter which order you do them in. Personally, I prefer to make my estimates first. That helps me when I'm calculating to double check my work and make sure I haven't added incorrectly or subtracted incorrectly. moving on to the next step, we have our exact calculation, and it's ready. 2 1s plus 5 1s. 2 1s plus 5 1s is 7 1s. 7 10s plus 2 10s is 9 10s. 2 hundreds plus 4 hundreds is 6 hundreds. And this is the exact calculation. Now, let's round. You'll see that we're taking the number 225 and we're going to round it to 200. You see those zeros? And it's rounded to the hundreds place because the 10s and 1s are zeros. Now I'm going to take 472 and round it to the nearest hundred, and I will get 500. The 7 10s tells the 400s we're really close to 500. Round up. Now I'm going to take this 200 and this 500, and I'm going to add them together. 200 plus 500, and I get the estimated sum of 700. So I have my exact calculation, and I have my estimated sum. So 225 plus 472 is about 700. There's that word about. It's telling me that the next thing I'm going to see is an estimate. Now I want to compare. I want to compare 697 to 700. 697 is close to 700? Let me check. Yes, because 697 plus 3 is 700. So they're really close together. And that way I know that my exact calculation is reasonable. I know that my exact calculation is reasonable. All right, let's do the next math problem together. All right, I'd like you to work on number 13, please. Please pause the video while you work, and as soon as you press play, you're going to see the answer. So please do your work first. Thanks. See you in a minute. All right, here's your answers. And I haven't put it all up there yet, have I? So number 13, we're starting with 780 plus 230. And they sure do look like rounded numbers, don't they? But I can round them to the hundreds, and when I round them to the hundreds, they change. So the exact calculation for those two numbers is 1010. And now I'm going to do my rounding. 780 is about 800. 230 is about 200. Why is that? Well, that 8 tens, it tells the 700s we're really close to the next 100, round up. Whereas this 3 tens says to the 200s, we're really close to 200, you better round down. And now I need to add. I'm going to add this 800 to this 200. And when I add 800 and 200, I see some friendly numbers. I see 8 plus 2. I see 8 in the hundreds place plus 2 in the hundreds place. And I know that that makes 10 hundreds. 10 hundreds is 1,000. When I add this together, I now have an estimated sum. So 780 plus 230 is about the estimated sum 1,000. Let's compare. The exact calculation, 1010, is close to 1,000? Let me check. It's only different by 10. So yes, my exact calculation is reasonable. All right, let's do another one. This time we're going to subtract, and I noticed something in the book. I noticed that first they're talking about subtraction, and then they used a plus sign. So I want you to do subtraction on this one for practice. So please, if you have your book handy, I'd like you to take your pen, and I'd like you to mark that and make it a subtraction sign, and make this a subtraction sign. so that we can get to an estimated difference. And here's what I know. I know that a person made this book, and I know that a person made a mistake, and that's okay. We can quickly change that with our pen. So please do this one right here. Please just do this one, number 14, and then I'll show you the answer. So please press pause, and when you're ready to see the answer, press play, and I'll show you the answer for number 14. See you in a minute. All right, here's the answer to number 14. Please press pause and check your work. So your work should be finished, checking your work. So let's move on to number 15. Please do number 15. Pause, do the work, press play when you're ready to see the answers for number 15. See you in a minute. Here are the answers to number 15. If you made a mistake, which happens, I want you to stop and think about the error that you made. And if you're not sure what that is, send me a picture. I can help explain it to you. Okay, let's move on to our homework, okay? So the homework is here in the workbook page, and we're going to do the exact same work that we did before. Here is the example math problem. So please do problem number 7. Please do problem number 8. And then I would like you to also do number 9. And then number 10, let me talk to you about number 10. It says here, Mrs. Ramsey wants to buy these 4 items. So I can see the prices for the 4 different items. And it says, find the total cost of the items. Now, total cost means an exact calculation. And then it says, use rounding to check that the total cost is reasonable. I think that sounds a little bit confusing. I think what we want to do is we want to use rounding to check that our exact calculation is reasonable. And in this case, they're saying total cost. And that would be the exact calculation they're talking about. That's part A. Part B says, Mrs. Ramsey has $980. Does she have enough money to buy all the items? So then all you need to do is answer yes or no there. That's our lesson for today. I look forward to seeing your work, and I'll see you tomorrow.